Dr. Murillo.
Here.
Mr. Ploger.
Present.
Ms. Simulton.
Present.
Ms. Fenman.
Present.
And
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So there is no public comment. We will move to 5.1.
Well, I want to welcome this evening. We are thrilled. We are starting a newish initiative where we are inviting groups within our district led by students and educators to present. And tonight we are welcoming the Bionic Believe It or Not, I Care. And I want to thank you all for preparing and being prepared to share your reflections with the board. You may come on up. So do we have a microphone there, so it would help us if you want to hold it, and
you can take it off the stand.
yeah, take it off the stand and then share the mic. It's just.
Okay, we're just going to start by introducing ourselves. So my name is Nina.
I'm Natalie.
I'm Griffin.
And I'm also Natalie, and we are 4 of your 9 Bionic board members.
So firstly, I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your day to meet us here today. It means a lot to all of us. And so just a big thank you, not only from the 9 of us on the Bionic board, but all 450 of our OHS Bionic Club members, as well as our 3 teacher sponsors that we have over there, wonderful teacher sponsors. Who's the clicker?
Can you introduce their names as well? I think it would be wonderful.
Yes, sorry. So that is Miss Mon over there, Miss Wendy Mon. That is Miss Rachel Ziefert and Mrs. Colleen Prettle. We also have wonderful Miss Early back there as well. All right, so this is a question that we throw around a lot in all of our Bionic programs, specifically our Hike and Talk programs, which we will get into later. And that is the question, what is your why? Now, I'm willing to bet that all 9 of us on the board could probably talk your ears off about our individual whys and why that we are so invested in the Bionic Club. But our why as a board as a whole is to make the OHS Bionic Club as accepting, kind, and positive as we can make it, not only for students at our school, but students in surrounding districts and just overall members in our community. So a few of you already know who we are and what we're about, but for those of you who don't, allow me to explain. So Bionic is an acronym, and it stands for Believe It or Not, I Care, and what we're about is spreading kindness and positivity and just showing people that it's easy to be nice, right? And so we're all about improving our community, and we do that not only through physical health, but also emotional health. So we have multiple programs where we work with food drives, as well as we do a giving tree program that gives back and helps people in need. And we also do emotional health focused things. Specifically, we make sure that us 9 on the board, as well as our 3 teacher sponsors, people know that they can go to us with absolutely anything that they need to. Last thing I want to add is that we are the absolute largest club at OHS with 450 members and counting, and we've been around since around the 1990s.
In Bionic, we have 2 community outreach programs, and the first one that I'm going to talk about is Teens Activating the Language of Kindness, also known as TALK, which is our high school program. Through this program, our TALK mentors lead groups of high school students through activities and discussions that spread awareness, raise positivity, and ultimately strengthen our school community. This is our 22nd year running this program, as it was founded in 2001. The second program I'd like to talk about is Heroes Invested in Kindness Every Day, or HIKE, which is our elementary school program. This year, we are running HIKE in 12 of the 13 elementary schools in our school district, and through this program, HIKE mentors will work with groups of elementary school students to teach them that their words have an impact on their peers and teach them how to spread kindness in their school community. After spending a whole day in these elementary schools, our hike mentors have the opportunity to join the Hike After School program, where they will go to these elementary schools on a weekly basis for the rest of the school year to volunteer. Last year, I participated in this when we piloted it at 4 elementary schools, and I volunteered at Southbury Elementary School twice a week, reading to kindergarten students. On top of these outreach programs, we also offer volunteer opportunities for the members of Bionic in our local community through organizations like the Food Pantry.
Okay, so now that you've heard a little bit about what we run and how we run those programs, I want to talk to you about the goals of not only us board members, but the entire club in general. So our main focus is to create a community, obviously within our individual high school, but also through the other schools in our district, such as the elementary schools, and also outside of the community. We often do programs throughout downtown, like the Kindness Rocks and stuff, to show all community members that there is kindness and positivity in the world, and through the food drive and Giving Tree programs to help anybody who might need it. But some of the board goals specifically are to make the group budget friendly. As high schoolers, we often try to be involved in a lot of activities, and the budget tends to kind of go out the window because everything is pretty expensive. So we want to make sure that Bionic is as accessible and as open and as easy to join for any of our board members, which also helps with making it a very open environment. But the main reason we're here today is to talk to you about cords, not only to recognize our seniors, but to recognize all the hard work and community service that our members go into. So this is an example of our current point tracking system. Every event that we run has a corresponding point value. So for example, the talk and hike programs are the biggest events we run, so they have the biggest amount of points associated with them. And every year of membership has a certain number of points you have to meet. So for example, if you only join Bionic your senior year, you would need 50 points in order to get your cord. But this is the part where we need your help.
So this is a continued example of our current point system. These are our current seniors, so I'm just going to go in depth about how we track these and what these kind of look like. So as you can see, we have the names listed in addition to their ID numbers, and then we have each event that we run as we run them, and then if they attended that event, they earn those points, and then we have their total number of points off to the far end. So, as you can see on this slide, we have obtained all of the things that we need in order to finalize these cords. However, we faced some contradicting information on who we need to go to. So that is our next step. Our next step is understanding who we need to go to finalize these cords so that we can recognize all of our Bionic members and especially our seniors. So again, we would just like to thank you as board members and everyone else for letting us come and speak before you today, in addition to your ongoing support to our club. We would also like to thank all of our Bionic members and their families who have come out to support us today, so thank you all. So if any of you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of the board members, or Mrs. Mon, Ziefert, or Predel. And again, a big thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Board comments?
Yeah, do you want to? Go ahead, go ahead.
Any questions? We're happy to answer.
Go ahead.
Well, they had a question. They ended with a question. Who do they need to go to? I don't.
They're all nodding. We do have that.
Do we know that answer?
Yeah, we will follow up with
Okay.
you. Yeah.
We will follow up with you.
And I would say, given the research, and not only given the research, but the depth of thoroughness in community service and impact in our community, I for one will vote to make sure we get a cord for you all. So we've got to figure it out one way or another. We're going to get a cord.
I agree. I think we can figure out a cord. And I see lots of people in the audience. Can I just see a raise of hands of those who are hike and talk people here tonight? Wow, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys did a beautiful job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Wendy and Colleen, and who else is back
Rachel.
there? Rachel's back there. I've seen this talk program in many iterations over the years. It's been a long time, but it's always been an opportunity for students, and I've only heard great things about this program. I've seen this program up close and personal, and I'm just so proud of you all. There was a time where this program was just in one school, and it is now in both schools, but more importantly, it is a district sanctioned club where it had not been in the past. And so I want to congratulate you all for showing the district the importance of this program and the effect that this program has on students. And so I want to thank you all and your sponsors for all their hard work and dedication over the years. You guys have been hanging in there for a long time. And so we really appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you.
And I'm actually going to a hike program next week, I believe it is. So looking forward to that. But thank you. I had seen your presentation, well, maybe a month ago. Maybe I've lost track of time. And as I said then, these kids just blow me away. Yeah. These kids are pretty awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I am not unfamiliar with many of these faces. I am a very loud and obnoxious advocate of Bionic. I've also had the opportunity to see some of these kids grow up when they were very little. I'm not gonna cry. Charlie, congratulations on Amia. I saw that today. Very proud of you. And I could not be more proud of you, but what I don't know that many people know is how many lives you've saved. When you had your first talk training and we had all the other schools in, I was able as a board member to talk to the other schools, and I got a text message at the end of the day that you guys recognized a student in crisis and saved their life.
It's amazing.
Wow.
The power and impact of this program and what you've taken on as students, with all the other things that I know you're running to, is so incredibly important, because you're gonna know what your students are, what your classmates are gonna do before, but they also have a safe place to go. To Rachel and Wendy and Colleen, I'm pretty sure that you have a ticket to whatever is beyond heaven, or whatever you wanna call it. I thank you for continuing to be a safe space for our students. You are all the reason that I do what I do, and I will forever be a Bionic Talk Hike Path supporter, and will continue to fight for you. And I will pay for the cords if I have to. You deserve them, and I'm super, super proud of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make.
Can I just say one more thing? One more thing. Aurora Catholic joined us this year because of Mrs. Maud. There she is. She went to Aurora Catholic, where her mom teaches, and went and said, your school needs this program. Wow. It's because of one of our students, that Aurora Catholic today has this program, and I'm just so grateful. So keep spreading.
No, sorry. I just wanted to follow up on what Ms. Johnson said. I don't know if it was a year ago or about, where you all came and gave a presentation, and I was in the middle of telling you all thank you, and I became emotional and I couldn't talk anymore. And the reason why, oh no, it's happening again. But
take your time.
I can do it. The reason why, and I was not able to finish. And the reason why is that my household has personally benefited from the work that you do. And my son was in personal crisis. And one day he came home and he said, Dad, I'm going to this program called Talk. And at the time, you know, if as parents, there's a twinkle in your kid's eye, and you know that twinkle, but it was gone. But when he came back from Talk, it was back. And so from the bottom of my heart, personally, I know the work and the impact of these programs. And so I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
So we want to thank you again for joining us this evening, and really we look forward to your continued success every day, and we know that the lives you've impacted and your own will be forever remembered. So thank you all.
Thank you. You're going to stay for the whole board meeting, right?
All right, we're going to move on to 6.1, the superintendent's report. Dr. Kelgatti, if you would please give us your superintendent's report.
Wonderful. This evening, well, we want to thank you all again. Today we thank and we celebrate the dedicated drivers and monitors on this Bus Driver Appreciation Day. This is really, I had the opportunity to join members of our leadership team over there and to thank our drivers personally and the transportation department for all their hard work. These special staff members are often some of the first at work each day. They're the district representatives that engage with our students at the start and end of each day of the school year, of each day, while collectively driving thousands of students, thousands of miles each day. They safely transport our most precious cargo. We sincerely thank each and every staff member of our transportation family today and always. We are nearing the end of Principal Appreciation Month. And this past month, we've celebrated each of these special leaders over the last week in many different ways. We appreciated the community. We invited community members from each school to join us in thinking out of extending words and phrases. And with that, we created an art piece, essentially, that was framed and provided to each principal. So it was really a gift that went beyond just a mere physical item, but really a word of gratitude, words that were captured for all of our principals. And with the same spirit of celebration, I want to share that this evening comes to the board a resignation notice from one of our members, of our principals, who has shared the news that he plans to retire at the end of this year from formal service as a principal. We know that these days retirement means the end of one career, maybe, and the start of a new one. So I won't say, so he's retiring and moving on to the next adventures of his life. Mr. Larry Piatek has served as the principal of Churchill Elementary School for 6 years, following many years of school leadership and educational service. His focus on instructional leadership and positively supporting a school community can be seen in all that he does each day. I can attest to that when I visited his school, but also when I met with members of his community, really spoke to that. Larry is a model of the mantra that he proclaims, which is to be positive, productive, and professional. We are grateful to Larry and for him joining the community in which he lives for the final years of his professional career as a principal. We're trying a number of new initiatives to recruit for specific roles within the district. This is a championship team that I'm grateful to be on, and we want to bring more to this. So coming soon, we have our Parapalooza on October 26th and Language Cafe led by our Human Resources Department. So Language Cafe on October 28th and Parapalooza on October 26th. Last Friday, I want to thank our HR team at the Crosstown game, which was riveting, providing information on joining our team. We are committed to connecting with our community in meaningful ways to help find the best fit for those interested in joining our District 308's team. Tonight, I'm also introducing a new practice where we're going to invite board members to join me in celebrating and bringing notice to different things across the community. So in addition to board comments, I want to start over here with, to my right, with Ms. Simulton.
Thank you.
And that concludes my official comments.
Thank you so much. So we're acknowledging Ascend, which is a student program here in our district. Its acronyms stand for Activating Students' Compassion Through Essential Notable Discoveries. And they held an event on Friday, and it was hosted by Waubonsee Community College. This incredible event brought together students from 6 area districts for a full day to engage in learning and sharing their experiences, opening their minds to the experiences of others. Our own superintendent, Dr. Kelgati, was the keynote speaker, sharing his own story, his why, he's where he is today. A special thanks to our own Dr. Waller for her commitment and vision that brought this amazing concept to life in such an amazing collaborative way.
Thank you. Just asking the community to please mark your calendars for Monday, November the 6th for a public forum hosted by the Board of Education. 2 times each year, this is where the board, we come together with our community to engage in open conversation and collaboration. This is also an opportunity where we can envision what's possible instead of just admiring what's before us. And so there will be additional information coming out about this evening very soon, so please look for that communication.
All right. Our food drive concluded last week with a total collection of 266,839 items and cash equivalents collected for the Kendall County Community Food Pantry. This incredible effort provides food security for thousands of neighbors each week. At each level, we honored the schools with the highest percentage of items donated per student during the crosstown football game Friday night. Congratulations to Oswego East High School, Trauber Junior High School, and Southbury Elementary School. Southbury was the overall winner as well. New this year, we recognized the schools who surpassed their previous year's collection total, our level up. Winners are Long Beach Elementary School, Southbury Elementary School, Bednarsik Junior High, and Trauber Junior High. The energy was high and positive at the crosstown game. We appreciate the great sportsmanship and student behavior at the game. And the cheering.
So Red Ribbon Week takes place every year from October 23rd through the 31st, and today is October 23rd. So it's the nation's largest and longest running drug use prevention campaign. The week is set aside to highlight the importance of living a drug-free life, and many of our schools will be engaging in different activities as we celebrate the important commitment to living a healthy lifestyle.
And finally, last but not least, congratulations to the OHS Panther Marching Band on making finals and placing 7th overall at the Illinois State Championship this past Saturday. This is the first time in school history this has happened. And in addition, they also placed 3rd out of all the 6A bands in prelims, 1st place in the visual ensemble caption out of all 42 bands in the prelims. It was a little awkward, but take my word for it. And 2nd place overall in the music caption at finals. So good job, OHS Marching Band.
Thank you. So we'll move on to 6.2, Board Committee Reports. We have a report from the Equity and Teaching and Learning Committee. Anyone like to speak out on that? We all documents?
Finance.
Oh, it is finance and facilities. Okay. Anyone want to speak on that?
We have some action items, some information and action items coming up this evening related to some savings, but also forecasting additional costs.
I would agree, and I think it is showing the precedent that we would like to set in making forward progress in the district, both from a cost-saving standpoint and also kind of setting the goal as being the district to look up to in this particular area. We'll start with that, and then we'll move on to the entire state.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I mean, we had a presentation on what we're going to do with, the RFP and contract process moving forward, solidifying that. So it was a good meeting. Yeah, we went a good, a half hour, 45 minutes late, and I had a feeling that would happen at the Finance Committee, so.
Okay. Thank you.
And then will we get information on the recommendation that was made for the Stewart Farms lease, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah,
We did talk
the
about that.
recommendation was to continue the partnership, and, I don't know if it's going to be completely necessary, but maybe think about putting, something like a 90-day, out just in case we decide to sell it or something along those lines, but that might complicate things, so we'll see.
And increasing the cost made no sense. We decided to kind of leave the.
We were talking about
the
$300
rent-
or something, right?
It was like $800 a year or something like that. So just to, in good faith, we decided to leave it the way it was, or it made sense to leave it the way it was.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, but, it was interesting because when I first got on this board, there were discussions about, do we really need this land? We're not going to get a third high school, so forth and so on. But with the amount of building that's occurring, and it's going to end up creeping south. And if you look at a map of the district, all the schools are up north, so that land, I think, becomes pretty important when we look into the future, especially if the district grows out. There's not a lot of schools in the southern part of the district, and if you go down to Nowasay Township, they would tell you there are no schools in the southern part of the district. So, but yeah. So
We've also looked into selling that land in the past, and we talked about what that would look like, and frankly, we just wouldn't make any money off of it. So the recommendation was, again, like Mary Jo said, to extend the Stewart Farms lease. They've been a good partner with us, and it just made sense.
Yeah. We're taking care of the land, so it's not an added cost to us, which a lot of times additional land is. Oftentimes, land is liability when it comes to government. So, but in this instance, it's being used to produce food, and so it's a good partner. It's a good relationship.
That's great. Sounds good.
Since we are introducing information and action on the same night, I will share that we did speak a lot about the Gallagher Employee Benefits Cooperative. I probably am the outlier here. Overall, the committee wanted a recommendation to be made for this. I have a lot of hesitations about it. I know that it looks like the savings are great. I think that that is a roundabout number, and I don't know that we're actually going to get to that number. And secondly, there's a lot of things that our current plan has, and I'm just going to use the Rush Copley partnership right now that we don't have answers for. And so, and there was quite a few of them on the list. And I just feel as though we've rolled out so many new things this year, and we haven't had some plans that this doesn't have a lot of plan around it, and I'm just concerned about that. So I just wanted to bring that forward so that when you see that a recommendation is made, you know that we did actually talk about a lot of positives and negatives about this.
And I have a feeling that Ken Miller is here.
We'll have a full
Maybe
presentation.
there's-
We're going to have a full.
And maybe because I think that they said they were going to have that discussion literally the next day, so maybe they had that discussion.
We do have updates from the questions in terms of the reservations, and we're grateful for all the questions that came up. It is really important that we do our due diligence with any initiative. So I would say that. And then I'm not sure if we've rolled out anything in terms of cost benefits or anything that's related this year. So this would be the first item related to this particular subject that we brought forward. So I do appreciate that, and I do know that we took the feedback of the board members that evening and came back with information tonight. So it'll be embedded in the presentation.
Yes. Okay. Is okay, we're moving on, right? Okay, 6.3, board member comments. Any board member comments that were not outlined in our shout outs during superintendent comments?
I had,
Go ahead.
you know, just today, myself and many at this table participated in the Homestead Stars mock trick-or-treat event. This helped to ensure these great students were able to practice the many skills needed to be successful on Halloween. It was an amazing experience, and I could tell the students had a great time. After the fact, we were told the students had the biggest smiles as they were going through their goodies, you know, their goodie bags that they got, you know, for trick-or-treating. I also want to thank teachers assistants, and the Homestead team who put this together. And then finally, I wanted to say that it's funny, not funny, coincidence that I spoke about the Kendall County Food Pantry and the amount of items that we donated this year. I volunteered a couple weeks back at the mobile food pantry over at Long Beach, and not only is it, you know, great to give back to the community and to support, but the people that run that, they were like, oh my God, this is so much easier when we have volunteers. And they were able to help everybody quicker. It was much, so they're very appreciative. So if you get a chance, I mean, volunteer for anything, but a food pantry is one that, you know, we've got ongoing, and it's there's a lot of opportunity. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just want to say thank you to the Will County Board. You know, there was a mental health resolution that was passed by the Will County Board. The voters overwhelmingly were in support. Unfortunately, it became contentious for some reason, but in the end, they ended up following the wishes of the board, and for all our students that are in Will County and could certainly benefit from any kind of mental health services, I just want to say thanks to the Will County Board for stepping up and listening to the voters and doing the right thing in the end, even if it did take, for some reason, some contention. It's sad that everything has to be political this day and age, or too many things, I should say, but thank you, Will County Board.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I just have a couple things. First of all, there've been two events that I've been to in the past week. Both of them have to do with the hate crime in Plainfield. One was in Plainfield itself, and I just want to say we were at a field house, and the field house held 1,600 people. At least that's what the police officer told me. And there was overflow outside the building. I mean, there was tremendous attendance. So it was sad, but it was great to see a whole bunch of people, different sizes, shapes, colors, just kind of coming together to stand up against hate. There was also another event yesterday that I went to that was a little bit more formal. That was at Benedictine University. The one thing that they brought up is that, you know, ultimately the way these problems get solved is by the children, by the young people, and that just really emphasizes how important it is as educators and as school board members to make sure that the children are taken care of. So I just kind of wanted to bring that point up as well, just to emphasize. Moving on to a different subject really quick. The holidays are coming, whether we like it or not. So Community Cares, you may be familiar with, puts together their holiday project in which for Christmas we collect food and we collect sponsors who will basically buy gifts for certain families. Anyway, all of that starts in a couple weeks. I just wanted to make you aware, and also if anyone we support basically 100 families at the holidays, so if anyone feels the need that they would qualify for that, I would direct you back to your school and to the school social worker. But again, it's a great program. There'll be more information coming out, but just wanted to make you aware of that. And Dominic stole my thunder on food pantry, so that's all from me. Thank you. Library board meeting is Wednesday the 25th. Thank you. It's it's important that the library board is having a really tough time these days. So I think the more people that show up, even if you don't speak, just to show your support, I think it's great if you can make it to be there.
What time?
When,
It starts at 5 o'clock,
what day?
Wednesday the 25th. Oh, it's at the Montgomery campus this time.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Isabel and Luke.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good to see you guys. So we'll ask for your student ambassador report at this point.
All right, so at our last SSAC meeting, we were able to create next steps for our work this school year. One goal for the future is to build better relationships between high school staff and students. Our first step in achieving this goal is to identify what the disconnect may be between our staff and students. Since we already have the students' input in this area, we are now focusing on the teacher's perspective. We have since started the beginning stages of our teacher survey, which will allow us to receive teacher input and perspective of student-teacher relationships and its impact on success in the classroom. We have identified 6 main categories to create our questions around. When we assess classroom commonalities, we can better identify where, how, and why student-teacher relationships are impacted. The categories we have established are: 1, classroom environments. This category includes everything from the clarity of classroom expectations to the rigor of the course to the safety in the classroom. 2, classroom structure. What is the class use for instructional and learning classroom time? Are there bell ringers, small groups? Are there lectures? Is there lots of independent work time, and etc.? Number 3, respect and rapport. How much respect does the teacher receive, and how is that respect returned? What is the relationship type, and is the class majority student-led or teacher-led? Number 4 is homework amount. Is the homework in said class nightly? Are there accessible resources for homework help? Is the homework busy work or necessary for student growth? 5, instructional strategies. What different ways do teachers instruct students during class time? If something is taught in a way that is not clear to the student, do they express their concerns? And is there a possibility for instructional flexibility? And finally, number 6 is mental health support. This category identifies the path to receiving mental health support in the classroom. Are there clear resources that teachers can provide for students? And is there a clear avenue of communication for teachers and students to go to? The SSAC is looking forward to further engaging in this work.
All right, so at the last SSAC meeting, I joined a separate group from Luke, and we worked on the beginning stages of planning our next in-school Ascend event. We began by going over some successes and shortcomings from our previous Ascend event a couple weeks ago. That included the positive interactions we saw when students were able to discuss topics with each other, turning and talking, one-on-one conversation, and how we could maybe expand that for our next event. We talked about the timing and clarity of communication needed to make students and teachers feel they understand what's going on and they can engage properly. And lastly, how we can, of course, make our programming more engaging and increase relatable connections to the student body. From there, we were able to discuss our goals for the next Ascend program on January 26th. We decided to work on a plan similar to the human library events of past years. These allow students to interact with people of many walks of life and experiences. Our first goal is to get a diverse group of adults willing to share their stories. The main topics we would really like to cover with our speakers are succeeding without a college degree, overcoming adversity in a field of work, and finding success and joy throughout that experience. And most importantly, we would really like to hear from people who struggled throughout school. They weren't straight A, 4.0, but they were still able to find success and happiness. So if you believe you or anyone you know would be a good fit for any of these topics, or if you have a different story to share, please visit the SD308 website and fill out our Google Form application. We would really like to give our student body an interesting and moving experience. Lastly, I wanted to discuss the Ascend conference this Friday. For those who are unaware, District 308 hosted the first of its kind, a diversity, equity, and inclusion conference at Wabanzi Community College last Friday, the 20th. I was able to attend along with a large group of both students from Oswego East and Oswego High School. We were also joined by students from many neighboring districts. It was such a great experience that really allowed me to educate myself on many issues facing our community. I personally attended 2 trainings, one on implicit bias and the other on the opioid epidemic. And there were many other trainings offered along with those that gave students the opportunity to learn about intersectionality, celebrating identities, diversity in the workplace, and so much more. Students are now able to go back to their districts equipped with the knowledge needed to educate their peers, whether, that's more intellectual or in my opioid epidemic one, we learned how to administer Narcan, which is a good skill to have, especially, as kids are going off to college. Overall, everyone had a great time, and we were able to walk away with valuable information to share with others. Thank you, Dr. Waller, for working to create such a great event, and thank you to the amazing people within our district who supported, presented, and volunteered to chaperone for this event.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had 2 students who wanted to say thank you. So 2 of my students in my district. So definitely Valley View, 365U. So definitely had an impact on districts outside our own. So it was an awesome little, what do you call it, proud moment, I guess, for us as 308.
I just want to touch upon something Isabel said. So on January 26th, they are holding a human library, and a little bit about what a human library is you will have different adults sitting in a room, and basically they are a book, and then people go in, students will go into that room, and they will get to quote unquote read the book. And so this is something that was developed out of New York, and we've participated in it as a district before, but we are going to run it ourselves this year. And I know that Eugene and I are really proud of the students for taking this on. What we hope is that students will have the opportunity to go hear different stories, and it will help them understand people better. Like someone with a disability, for instance, they can go in, you hear the story, and then you have an opportunity to ask questions. And so the Student Advisory Committee is currently looking for any adult that would be willing to take that on. It is it is definitely something that you have to be willing and open to do and be comfortable with students asking you questions, but the impact is pretty phenomenal. So Isabel, could you tell one more time where they can send that information?
So there should be a Google form on the 308 website. And there's also been a flyer created. I don't know if that's posted or not, but that will also have a QR code to the Google form, which will probably just ask. I haven't read through, I'll be honest, I haven't read through all of it, but I know the person who did it, and I believe there's just a couple questions, background, and all of that. But you don't have to fit, every story I mentioned. It can just be something you feel is important to share with students.
And what's the date of it?
January 26th.
Thank you.
Isabel, do you know where on the website? If you
I'm
don't,
not sure.
It's fine.
Yeah, I just saw the form today, so I'm not sure if it's live yet, but it's coming. Yep.
Okay. Moving on to 7.1, the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve all items under consent, including 7.1 minutes from the Board of Education meeting on October 10th, 2023, open and closed session, and 7.2 to acknowledge the FOIA requests received by the district.
Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
Yes, second.
Oh, somebody seconded, right? Did you say second? Somebody said second.
I seconded, but
Okay.
are there any
Do
questions?
you have questions? Anyone have questions on the consent agenda?
Okay. Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Simonton?
Aye.
Mr. Floger?
Aye.
Ms. Venman?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
So this evening, I'm proud to bring to our discussion and for review, Dr. Zwemke, Glenn Campos, and Ken Miller are going to discuss some work that they've also worked with the finance department in cooperation with Mr. Obafemi to talk about transition to a new health care system provider. One of the core issues that the board has brought to our attention is a really need for increasing our financial viability, and I'm pleased with the work this team has done, and I'm sure you'll have lots of important questions, and I appreciate those questions because we want to ensure that the community and where everything is done with viability.
Good evening, board. With me tonight is Ken Miller and Glenn Campos, who really lead our benefits team within our Human Resources Department. We have 3 goals in our Human Resources Department: to recruit, retain, and reward our staff. We have provided with you a memo and a slide presentation tonight to answer any questions. We did have a meeting with the Finance Committee. We met last week also with each president of the unions to discuss feedback, and then we have amended our presentation and our memo based on that feedback. So Ken and Glenn, what I like to call the law office of Ken and Glenn. Couldn't pass it up.
I think they need a logo.
Right. They do. If you guys would like to start our presentation for our recommendation for our employee benefit cooperative, you have the clicker right there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zwemke. And thank you to the Board of Education for the opportunity for the two of us to come here and talk about a subject that's near and dear to our hearts, employee benefits.
Well, thank you, Ken, and thank you, Board. Before we take a deep dive into our medical insurance, it's going to be helpful to provide an overview of our medical offerings. On any given month, we have approximately 2,800 or more employees enrolled and an additional 2,800 dependents enrolled in our medical insurance. These employees and the dependents are enrolled in one of 3 different plans. There is our traditional PPO. There's also a high deductible PPO, which comes with a healthcare account that helps our employees offset that high deductible plan. And we also have finally a HMO plan. All told, the cost to cover these members on our insurance runs approximately $27 million per year. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Thank you, Glenn. I'm better off holding the mic than I am with the mic and the mic stand. So for the past 15 years or longer, and again, 15 years is about as far back as I'm able to find records, our district has been self-insured for employee medical coverage. This means that the district contracts with a third-party claims administrator, in our case Blue Cross Blue Shield, to negotiate rates for payment with providers, to determine what the provider networks are, and ultimately to pay claims on the district's behalf. So to determine premium rates, the district relies on the services of our broker, currently Lockton Corporation, to be able to perform an actuarial analysis and review and recommend the premiums that the district will ultimately charge. And over the past 6 years, this approach has served the district very well. I'm pleased to say that we've been able to maintain our insurance rates unchanged since January 1st of 2017. And unlike the Bulls, who needed a couple of years in between to get a 6-peat, we've been able to run the table. To provide a little bit of context for this number,
Ken's got jokes.
We got to make benefits fun.
Yes, come on.
And to provide some context for that number, when I last had the privilege of talking to the Board of Education about benefits back in April, 36%, let me say that again, 36% of employees who have our medical coverage have never had their rates increased in January due to increased plan costs. That's more than 1 in 3, which is unheard of in this industry. And while there are many benefits, like I've gone over as far as maintaining this self-insured approach, there are some risks associated with going it alone. Ultimately, at the end of the day, claims drive premiums. And if claims drive premiums, our risk pool is then ultimately vulnerable to increases in claims costs or claims activity that ultimately need to be factored into those costs. And while the district does have stop-loss reinsurance to be able to protect against catastrophic claims, we're responsible for the first $120,000 in claim costs for those on our HMO plan and $230,000 for those that are on our PPO plans. So as a result of increased claims activity and inflationary pressures that are driving up the cost of claims, Unfortunately, we will not be able to continue the 6th-year winning streak into a 7th. And remaining self-funded with the status quo, all else being equal, was projected to result in the need for an average increase of approximately 8.8% for medical. So the task is now, how do we find ways to be able to mitigate the impact of rate increases and also hedge against future rate increases from a position of strength that the past 6 years have afforded us? So to accomplish this, the administration is recommending that we move away from our self-funded approach and instead join the employee benefits cooperative that is led by Gallagher. This cooperative has been in existence since 1984. It consists of 125 school districts across the state of Illinois, governed by a board of directors where every district gets a seat, and a 7-member executive board that handles some of the broader policy and administrative decisions. Gallagher then serves as the broker of record for all of the plan design offerings. And in looking at the employee benefit cooperative's track record, their average increase per year over the course of 5 years for those that have HMO insurance is 4.4% per year. For those that have PPO plan designs, it was approximately 5.3% on average for a 5-year average for their cost increases, which is pretty good compared to the industry average, where right now seeing 7.5%, 10%, even in some cases 14 to 15% is not unheard of. So by moving to the employee benefits cooperative, not only do we get the chance to have strength in numbers, we will also be able to retain our current plan designs, reduce our liability for high-cost claimants, secure stable rates for the next 18 months, align our benefit renewals to coincide with our fiscal calendar, and also, like I had said, hedge against future premium increases by broadening the risk pool. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn to take a little bit deeper of a dive.
So one of the primary reasons, or factors I should say, for making this recommendation here tonight was to retain the ability to retain our current plan designs. In fact, there will be no change to our copays, deductibles, or plan network with this change. In fact, the coverage will maybe improve because we're going to add CVS Pharmacy back into our network. For employees who rely on our supplemental plans such as Hinge, Livvago, Rush reimbursement, as well as First Stop, essentially joining the EBC will not be a barrier to renewing those plans. Moving forward, Gallagher would act as the broker of record in negotiating renewals for these services on the district's behalf. And ultimately, here, our goal is to make sure that we meet the needs of our employees and their dependents so they can, in turn, meet the needs of our students.
So just to be clear, this will not change our ability to continue our annual contract with Rush Copley, correct?
At this, it would not. At this time,
Okay.
we would have, I'm sorry.
Because that's an annual contract. My understanding is that was an annual negotiated every year for the last however many years we've had that. That is something that we annually negotiate. And as of now, that would not change any of that.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry.
Does it,
I'm sorry, you have a question?
does it potentially impact future years, any in irrelevant, relative terms, compared to what we currently are doing?
Yeah. Well, Gallagher, much like Lockton Corporation, Gallagher is one of the big players in this industry. They have built a track record and built a consulting practice from the ground up that is now a Fortune 500 company. When it comes to having the expertise on hand to be able to negotiate intricate agreements such as the one that we have with Rush, Lockton has done an absolutely amazing job, but I do believe that we would be able to continue that momentum with Gallagher, and I don't see that it would necessarily preclude or prevent or be an impediment to those negotiations by switching over.
Okay.
I concur to that. Reducing our liability for high-cost claimants. In looking at our liability for these high-cost claimants that we've been having, as Ken mentioned earlier previously, we are responsible for the first $120,000 in HMO claims. In addition, we are responsible for, again, the first $230,000 in claims for PPO plan participants. The cost of a safety net for these catastrophic plans is approximately $2.5 million per year, and the cost of coverage for this type of planning fluctuates from year to year. By moving to the EBC program, we would be covered under their stop-loss policy, and claims above $70,000, claims costs above $75,000, regardless of the plan, wouldn't factor into underwriting into the future?
So an added benefit also of moving to the EBC is that our benefit renewal will align with our fiscal calendar. And when we join, we would actually be guaranteed stable rates for the next 18 months. And in looking at the overall impact of this recommendation, if we were to move to the Employee Benefits Cooperative, instead of the 8.8% increase on average that was forecast under the do-nothing scenario or the status quo scenario, we would only need to see on average an increase of 5.2%. This means that our employees would save approximately $375,000 in increased premiums over the course of the next 18 months, while the district would avoid cost increases to the tune of $1.125 million over the next 18 months. Additionally, it will free up the district to be able to budget for benefits with certainty, because right now, in our budget, there are 2 renewal cycles that occur for every single fiscal year, because our benefits are on a January to December basis, as opposed to the July to June basis that our fiscal year needs to run on under the school code. So this will provide us the ability, for the first time in a very long time, to be able to better budget for benefits with certainty. There we go, we got a tongue tie there. Better budget for benefits with certainty. Additionally, the district will be able to hedge against future increases by spreading our risk over the other 125 districts that are in the cooperative, and be able to retain our plan design changes without any barriers or impediments to continuing to negotiate those annual contracts for standalone services that many of our employees have come to rely upon and that have given us a comparative advantage in keeping costs low.
So we currently negotiate, just to be clear, we currently negotiate our rates individually with a firm, correct?
Correct.
Versus now we would be negotiating as part of a cooperative of 127 other districts.
Correct.
Okay.
So instead of having 1,725 employees, on average, we would have the purchasing power of 28,000 employees on average.
Thank you.
And there's strength in numbers. So if the board were to approve this recommendation, in looking at what our next steps are and our timeline for implementation, we would be looking to hold our open enrollment between November 6th and November 17th. And this would cover the first 6 months of that 18-month transition. So between November 6th and November 17th, employees would have the ability to elect their plans for the January 1st to June 30th benefit period. And then, come May, before we pack up our classrooms and we look forward to the nice long summer, we would be looking to select our benefit offerings for the second open enrollment period, which would run between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025. Now, with the 2 open enrollment periods, the dollars that are going to be charged for premiums will not change between the 2. But let's say that you tried the HMO and you'd like to switch to the PPO, or if you've got the PPO and you'd like to switch to the higher deductible plan. Having that second open enrollment window to be able to do so is a benefit and a rare opportunity for somebody to be able to make mid-year plan design changes. So I know that we've covered a lot of ground, and I appreciate the humor with the jokes there, but what questions does the board have?
First, I just want to say, Ken, thank you, and I miss you. Thank you for the jokes. I appreciate that. The one question is, what will employees lose as we switch to this plan? And then I may have a second question based on how you answer that.
So, again, setting aside, there are some of our standalone offerings that are negotiated on an annual basis, and again, joining the Employee Benefits Cooperative is not a barrier or impediment to our ability to continue to negotiate those. The most consequential plan design, the most consequential change to the overwhelming majority of our employees would be needing to remember come January 1st to take your old Blue Cross Blue Shield card out of your wallet and put a different one in. If you are on our HMO plan and you've got referrals that are already in place for specialist care, those referrals will remain intact. Again, they will be cloning our plan designs identically. There will be no impediment or impact where our employees would be losing out. And in fact, by adding CVS pharmacies back into the mix, they would actually stand to gain.
Okay, you canceled my second question.
Dr. Zwemke, can you add to that based on your assessment of what you've heard?
Yeah, I think the key piece that we're looking for here is the more opportunities that we can to negotiate with a larger group, it would be the better. One of the things that when we talked with the union groups, they had those very similar questions. What am I going to lose? How can things be different for us? Good different, and then bad different. And I think we were able to meet with them and speak with them and to be able to talk through what those concerns are. I think they're very excited about the addition of CVS Pharmacy, things related to Rush Copley. Glenn, can you speak to maybe the telehealth as well, too, they were excited about?
Right. So we have a telehealth program that provides employee assistance, behavioral health, as well as urgent care. The program has been in effect since January 1st. It's been extremely successful. We actually have, we meet on somewhat of a regular basis to go over this information with our current broker, as well as First Stop Health. In terms of the program success, I just speak to that we are saving additional monies from the use of First Stop Health, that is our employees using First Stop Health for things such as urgent care and, again, behavioral health. The program, again, is expected to, again, not change moving forward, but if you have specific questions, I'm not exactly sure what those might be. I certainly would be happy to answer them.
And just a couple other things. Same plans with diabetes and hypertension.
Absolutely. So we have 3 plans that go, but they are actually paid through Blue Cross Blue Shield. One is Wonder, which is for weight loss. One is Livago, which is for diabetes, and then there's Hinge, which is for hypertension. And those 3 plans will continue uninterrupted. I've been told that there will not be any disruption to those plans.
If I can. So something I wanted to point out, a lot of time when you talk about joining a co-op, a lot of people assume that what you're doing is you're taking out other people's risk. But what I want to point out is our loss history is what is going to be used against the determination of our premium. Just to state that again, our loss history is what is going to be used to determine the price increase. So we would not be taking on other districts' loss history. Okay. It's going to be our members' loss history. Where the advantage comes in is the ability to be able to use the power of a larger group to negotiate better pricing, which you currently don't have. So you go from negotiating with 1,700 lives, if you will, to negotiating with 28,000 lives. That gives you more heft in the marketplace to be able to get pricing that you ordinarily would not get with fewer lives.
Thank you.
Is there going to be any interruption to payroll, the deduction from the payroll system?
No, there will not be. This will be just like any open enrollment. We upload that information effective January 1st. And then we obviously look back at that information. So it's actually a work in progress starting January 1st. And we make sure that, or I should say, I make sure that any sort of lagging sort of enrollments, any sort of issues that pertain to coverage, I send out several letters or email communications reminding employees to look at their deductions, to verify the coverage, and to contact me if any disruptions. So to your question, that shouldn't be an issue. It's the same. It's not going to be any different than previous years.
Can you speak to how many different organizations you spoke to in doing your research and what potential savings there might be?
Yes.
It was what, 6?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I believe we had met with 6 different firms, of which there were 2 that offered a cooperative option. But in looking at the track record of the cooperatives and the length of time that they've been in the game, and also the track record of success, Gallagher, the employee benefits cooperative that is managed by Gallagher, stood alone. In meeting with their executive vice president, in meeting with their team that would be assigned on a dedicated basis to District 308, again, we saw the quality, and we saw people who think a lot alike when it comes to how our approach to benefits, about being progressive, about being proactive, about looking upstream and finding ways to be able to deliver care in the lowest cost, earliest stages possible.
The other thing I would like to add is it's an executive board that actually makes decision for the co-op. Our goal is we will work very hard to get one of our employees to be on that executive board. So our voice is not lost among those 125 school districts. So that's the plan here. We will work very hard to get, more likely than not, Ken on that executive board. So our voice is not lost.
So that ties into my questions. So before we decide whether last year was the last dance,
well played.
Thank you.
All right.
Pun intended.
Right.
Played.
He was waiting for that.
Anyways, I had 3 specific questions. I'll throw them all out at once because they absolutely relate to that. How many LUTA districts are in here? Who's going to represent us on the out of the 125 districts? And is it one vote, one district, or is it proportional?
So just to answer the question, there's a board of directors, if you will,
Right.
that governs the co-op, and there's an election held for that. And what we will try to do is we'll be one of the larger members of the co-op. So we will do everything we can to work to make sure that one of our people gets on that executive board that governs the co-op.
So I guess my question is, I'm not trying to be difficult here, but are there other LUTA districts on there? Because I'm sure they have the same philosophy, and if so, which ones? And then who's going to represent, like who goes into, who's casting like that vote? Who's showing up when the 125 get together and say, this is who we want?
What we can find out for you.
Okay.
The other district in our area who are in that co-op. I know the governing system for that co-op is the executive members who are elected by the member district, and those executive, like you do in most co-ops, they make decision representative of the members in the co-op. But what we will do, we will use our influence because we'll be one of the larger members of the co-op to make sure that that executive board, we have one of our staff members serve on that executive board.
And I appreciate it. It's just, and I'm not saying this is necessarily a barrier, but, I've watched organizations like IASB and let's be honest and blunt, usually the people holding the key there have ended up being non-unified, affluent districts. And so I'm just curious if that's what we're entering in here or if we're entering in with other LUTA districts. Just curious what the makeup is, and so.
We'll be happy to share the makeup of all the districts with the board.
Did we talk to any other districts that are in this and ask how they felt about it?
Yes. I've talked to a number of districts who are part of the EBC, and a number of them have been in the EBC for a long time. And based on conversation that I've had with them, they've been satisfied. A lot of them started out using brokers, individual brokers. What happened is a lot of time individual brokers are there to make money, if you will. The co-op, there's no profit to be made. So when you do well, the increase is distributed back to members of the co-op. And a determination is made instead of increasing rates. What happened is the profit, if you will, is used to buy down the rate increase to make sure the increases doesn't happen.
So are you invited as a member, or have there ever been members who've been declined?
We have to be voted in.
Yes, we have to be voted in.
And based on the criteria of, I would imagine, like your loss ratio?
Yes,
or,
yes.
Okay.
The executive board had to vote us in. And based on conversation with the folks at Gallagher who manage the co-op, there have been school districts that have applied that they've declined not to take up because of their loss profile.
Any other questions? Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Johnson. Oh, okay. Thank you, team, for your due diligence and your efforts to bring this information and the presentation tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
It was so nice to see Glenn.
Yes, Glenn.
Yes.
It's good to see you. We invite Mr. Obafemi to, part of early on in my tenure here in the district, the board had asked for regular updates and opportunity to think about evidence-based funding, both for our own learning, but also really for the community at large. And so, community, when you are listening, if you hear things that you think would be helpful in these presentations, please follow up with an email, and we will be doing this regularly as part of our board meetings.
Okay. This is the second part in the series of information that we're going to share about the evidence-based funding model. Now, the first presentation that was given last month was more of an introduction. And the second installment is more a way to kind of share how much we've received since the implementation of EBF as a district, how we benefited from that. So I think this is a recap of when EBF was set up back in 2017, became law, and the fact that it's the best practice as far as funding of schools from the state, as opposed to the old method of everyone gets the same amount of money, regardless of the unique need of every district. So the key metrics that is used in EBF is that the state is committed to allocating minimally $350 million a year. Of the $300 million that is allocated, the allocation is going to be based on the tier and the unique need of each district. So tier 1 being districts with the furthest from adequacy, all the way to tier 4, who have the local funding to be able to fund the educational need of their students. And I think it's important to point out there's a second part to that funding level. The $300 million goes to state funding. The other part of that is $50 million. And that $50 million is used to fund property tax relief grant, where districts with relatively high property taxes can actually apply for relief. Except the tricky part about that is the district would then have to abate an equal amount from property taxes that it will levy. But the funky part about that too is there's no guarantee that you will get that money year to year. So you abate your taxes, and which means you lose the ability to get that revenue you levy, and you're not guaranteed to get the money back from the state. So you're kind of putting your faith in the state, thinking that it'll do right by you, and there's no guarantee that it will do right by you. That's an important part that I want to point out. With the $300 million, the basis is just going to be on your tier. So if you are farthest from adequacy, you get a set amount based on a number of variables. So from where I'm sitting, I think the property tax relief grant is a tricky way of going. I think just going with the allocation from the $300 million makes more sense. Now, this is a recap of what I just said, that since EBF started, the legislation was passed in 2017, and the allocation started being made in FY18, and it's been $300 million for the adequacy target, and then the $50 million has been for the property tax grant. Now, since EBF was implemented, the state has been very good the first 3 years, in FY 18, 19, and 20, of actually raising the allocation that were made to school district. However, in 2021, as a result of COVID-19, the state actually did not step up and increase it. So the allocation in 2021 was flat. And it was mainly because of COVID-19. As we all can remember, when COVID-19, when it happened back in 2020, no one knew what the impact of it was going to be on the state's finances, and I dare say on school district finances. And we know a lot of businesses shut down, and we know a big chunk of revenue that the state gets comes from income that is generated from state income tax, from sales taxes, and so that impacted the state negatively. And what you will see in the next slide is that the allocation, I'm going to show you that, the history of the allocation went lower in 2021 compared to the prior 3 years. But in 2022 and onward, the state is pretty much caught up. So there was a dip in 2021, and it was made up in 22, 23, and in the current year, 2024, the state has been spot on. They've kept to the commitment that they made of increasing allocation every year. So what I just mentioned, I thought it would be nice to see a picture. So if you look at 2018, when EBF actually took effect, there were steady increases each year. Then if you look at 2021, it was pretty much flat. And that was the impact of COVID-19 on state revenue. But then from that blip on, then things took off again, and it's been steadily increasing from FY18 to 2024. This is another way of showing that. I know sometimes it's always helpful to look at the pictures. And you will see there's been steady increase except for FY21, which was pretty much flat compared to FY20. And I wanted to show a table that lays out how much the district has received since the implementation of EBF. So 2018, which is the first year, in 2019 there was an increase of 6%, as you see, and that went up again to almost 7% in 2020. But then in 21, as I mentioned, because of the impact of COVID-19, that was essentially flat. But then it picked back up in 22, back to about 7%. And the last year, and I think to a large extent, because of allocation from the federal government to states as a result of COVID, the state, like a lot of other states, got a lot of money from ESSER and all the appropriation that were distributed by the Congress. So what the state did is pass that money around, and then the pent-up demand from businesses. There was an increase in business activity in the state of Illinois. So the state made up that difference. So in 22, it went up back to 7%, and 23, it went up even significantly to almost 11%. And if you look at the allocation this year, 97.7 million, so it's almost 10%. So except for the blip in 21, the state has actually been committed, and the appropriations have been there, the allocation has been there for us and to help a bottom line. That's it. Any questions?
I have a question. What do you mean? Perfect, thank you. So the allocations in this column, allocations to 308?
Yes, yes, this is us.
All right, then I have another question.
District appropriation, yes.
Earlier on, I thought you said that the total appropriations were 300 million?
For the district-wide. Statewide, I'm sorry, statewide for EBS. So what the state committed to when EBF was passed is that every year $350 million will be appropriated by the state, appropriated. Okay. And the distribution of that $350 million, $50 million will be set aside for the property tax grant. $300 million will be allocated based on the tier of the individual school district. And that will be driven to a large extent by the distance from the distance of the funds required, the medium fund required to educate a child appropriately. So districts with the local resources to be able to provide an adequate education to their students who are higher tier got old harmless amount. Essentially, they got what they were appropriated in 2017, and they will not lose ground.
There's just I get all that. There's just one piece I'm missing.
Okay.
I'm missing somewhere how there's call it 300 million.
Yes.
I can.
97
I think I can answer this.
Okay, I know 97 of 300 is not coming to 308.
Correct. 8 million, so it's 300 million of incremental. So let's say that they were spending $20 billion a year. They're going to add another 300 million
300 million is
incremental.
incremental.
And we got 8.5 of it.
I understand.
Of the 300 million.
Okay. Yeah. I thought, gosh, we're getting.
No, yeah.
No.
We better be like the entire
no.
state, right?
Jeez.
You know, if we're getting a third of the money. But,
Okay.
No.
That's the
I'm
incremental.
sorry if I didn't explain it right.
Oh, no, that's okay.
That was the increase that was available. They gave us the increase, the difference, to build on the prior year.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now I get it. Thank you.
So just for the population, the community, so we were getting 6% of that 300 incremental. Then we were getting 7. Then we were getting 7 again. Then 11 and 10. Why did we suddenly get a bigger piece of that $300 million pie?
Because when you look at it, adequacy hasn't gone up. Adequacy has been pretty much steady, right? So what is used to determine is school districts with tier. So the lower you are in adequacy, the more money you get from the pot. So which means the further you are from adequacy. So the variables that I put in there. In my next presentation, we're going to talk about the calculations of how they reach that adequacy.
Okay.
It's a combination of the equalized assessment value, the value of local property taxes, right? And the amount of money that the district can safely generate from local funds without putting undue burden on local taxpayer. So based on all those variables, we're at 69. The lowest you could pretty much be is 60. So I should say we're pretty close to the low end of adequacy.
So that's another thing, is that even though we're getting incremental dollars from the state relative to the year prior, we're still one of the worst funded districts in the state because we're still a tier 1.
It doesn't, it's not that we...
For adequacy.
For adequacy, yeah, and I think...
For what a district like ours is supposed to need.
I think saying we're the worst funded may be a misnomer, right? So the way EBF was set up is, the state looked at how much it will cost, the average cost of educating a child in the state of Illinois, regardless of where the child is located. And let's say that amount is $7,500. And looking at the property wealth and the percentage of property taxes that residents of the community are paying, and the ability to raise additional taxes locally, then the state used that to create tiers. So if you look at our tax rate, we're pretty high. So the state looked at us, and you also look at the variety, the mixture of the property taxes. So we are mostly residential. We don't have that much in the way of industrial, and we also have farmland. And farmland taxes is based on what the farms produce, right? So in looking at that, we fall on our ability to raise additional revenue locally is pretty limited without hitting up our taxpayer for even a higher tax rate. So the state looked at us and say, you need more help to get to adequacy. And that's why we keep getting the increases in allocation. And unless the makeup of our property taxes changes significantly, our ability to generate local wealth changes significantly, our level of contribution from the state will probably stay very similar as long as we get the appropriation from the state, because we're still going to be tier 1.
I appreciate the series. I wanted to hear more about it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So I don't know if anybody else has anything.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So one thing that I just wanted to point out, because it's the week that it is, since it's the veto session in Springfield, one of the aspects of when the evidence-based formula was passed, there was a provision, right? And in that provision, it's known, if you will, as Invest in Kids. And what that provision was basically a voucher system for people who wanted to perhaps circumvent the public education system and be reimbursed, if you will, for what they were paying to the private system. One thing a couple things I want to point out about that is that's come up, certainly from some of the people that I've discussed with in the community. I'll give a couple of pieces here. One is that when quote-unquote Invest in Kids was put in as a provision for evidence-based formula, these were the following leaders of the Senate and the House. Bill Bradley, a Republican, Mike Madigan, the Democrat, Jim Durkin, a Republican, John Cullerton, a Democrat. Those were that was the leadership of the Senate and the House at the time. Bill Brady is a graduate of the Central Catholic Private School in Bloomington. Michael Madigan was a graduate of St. Ignatius Private School in Chicago. Okay. Jim Durkin was a graduate of Fenwick High School, also a private school, and John Cullerton went to Loyola Academy, also a private school. The provision was supposed to help students who were in underperforming districts. So if you lived in a district that was underperforming, you were supposed to be the target student of this provision. Approximately 28% of those funds have actually gone towards students in underperforming school districts. The vast majority have gone to students who are already in districts that are overperforming or at least performing adequately. So one of the things that I always ask continuously, I give the example of Hinsdale. So Hinsdale High School District, if you live in Hinsdale itself, you can go to Hinsdale South. It's not a problem. However, there is real life redlining. If you look at Burr Ridge Middle School is the only district that it touches that is a majority African American. And if you go to Burr Ridge Middle School, you feed into Hinsdale South. You do not have the choice to go to Hinsdale Central if you go to Hinsdale South. Hinsdale High School District will let you go to Hinsdale South if you are in the Hinsdale Central boundaries, will not let you go to Hinsdale Central if you're from Hinsdale South. The representative of that, one of the representatives in that district, big proponent of Invest in Kids, will never tell you, does Invest in Kids give you a choice when it comes to this high school? The answer is no, you're not going to have that change. So I've heard this say, oh, you're against choice or whatever. The bill was set up by bipartisan to try and help students who were in underperforming districts. That's not happening. And if it was really choice, I would challenge that Republican representative from Hinsdale. I'll talk to her anytime. Are you going to guarantee choice within in the high school district you represent? I know the answer, and I know I won't get a call. So I just wanted to make sure that piece was, because it was attached to the evidence-based formula when this was passed, and I just wanted to make sure that that piece was covered as well, since the session is this week and there's been a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, there was, there's an attempt being made to actually pass that during this fall session. And just based on the composition of the legislature now, I'm not sure how likely that is to pass. But I may be wrong, but I'm just not sure how likely it is because of the composition. Yeah.
What I've heard, because I've had conversations with representatives from both sides, right? I'm going to be blunt and to the point. We have a representative that our borders touch that sits on a private school board of education. He's very much a proponent of this. Small school rivalry, right? He's from Newark and I'm from Salmonac, so anytime he wants to play basketball, if we want to go back to basketball analogies, I'm in. But anyways, there's also others on who have looked at this. They see that how this was passed and everything else, and they are interested in how constituents feel. So, for those who have a opinion on this, if it's, I'm not going to tell people what to believe, but I would highly recommend that you reach out to your state reps and senators.
Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Next, we have, for information this evening, Bill Queen joining us to discuss the Plank Rooftop Unit bid results. And she's joined by Charlie Johnson from Kluber. So I want to welcome you. And my Barry White voice sounds a lot worse than it really is. So I'm okay.
You're still a couple octaves away.
I'm still okay.
There we go.
Bill Queen, please come up.
Yes, please.
Oh, you can work from there if you like. But Charlie,
All
if
right.
you'd like to come up to the mic.
Good evening, Board,
evening.
Madam President, Dr. Calgatti, colleagues.
Bill Queen.
So I feel it's important to give a little background on the Plank project before we talk about the recommendation. So as a part of the Envisions 308 plan for capital improvements, the rooftop units at Plank Junior High were identified as a priority project to replace critical HVAC systems necessary to maintain school indoor air quality and ensure the health and safety of students and staff in the building. Plank was established and opened up in 2006, making these units about 17 years old. They're reaching their life expectancy, and it shows. My maintenance techs are there a lot. We're spending a lot of time, and it's been quite difficult finding parts and replacement parts moving forward. Recommendation. On September 28th at 10 a.m., bids were read publicly, opened and read aloud for Plank Junior High RTU replacement. The lowest base bid was submitted by Helm Mechanical Group of Freeport. The second lowest bid was submitted by MG Mechanical Contracting, Inc. of Woodstock, Illinois. It is at this time the administration recommends that the Board of Education approve the second lowest bidder in MG Mechanical at the sum of $3,494,000. The reasoning behind this recommendation is that Helm Mechanical is currently involved with boilers and chillers projects at Oswego High School, Oswego East, and we've experienced significant delays from the original completion timeline. In awarding the second lowest bidder, we expect this project to be completed in a time to begin the 2024-2025 school year. That concludes. Any questions?
Thank you, Bill. What I would like to add is that in the future, before we go out to bid, what we plan to do is add a process to it where we actually write a memo, share with the board that lays out the justification for a particular bid that we're going out for. That lets the board know why we picked that particular project to do before we even go out and inform the board and get permission to move ahead with the bid process before we even start that. That is something that we plan to do moving forward. I think because of time, this time we didn't do that, but moving forward, we plan to do that. Write a memo with a recommendation as to the rationale for choosing a particular project and asking permission from the board and offering an opportunity for the board to ask questions before we go ahead and create an RFP and go out for bid.
I'd say that would be really helpful. I know a lot of the conversation we had at Finance Committee was why this project. So, so I appreciate you hearing that and proposing a solution to that.
Appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you want to add anything in terms of what came up?
I don't have any additional comment.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? So, I think, Mr. Queen, you said that going with MG you had the impression, or I don't want to use your words, but there was a reason why you felt this one would not have the significant delays as the other. If I remember, with the original one with Helm, it was because of parts and et cetera, why it was delayed. Do we know why we believe this one would be less problematic from a timeline perspective?
I don't. So that was twofold, right? At East, there were some situations with getting equipment and getting set up. For Oswego High School, there was no reason for that job not to come in on time. And for that, in the sensitive timeline with this project, we can't go with them. It's not my recommendation to go with them.
And there's a couple of other things that I would like to point out too. The approach that we use in drafting the RFP, we put in a request for liquidated damage in the RFP process. And what that would do is we set a substantial completion date of, I believe, August 8th. And what that would do is it will offer the winning bidder the option to finish on time, and if they don't, they will have to pay the district compensation for every day they missed in finishing by the set date. And the flip side of that will be if they do finish on time, we will pay them a bonus, if you will, and that bonus is actually not going to be new money. It's going to be part of the contingency that we set aside for the project. So if there's no contingency, we don't pay that. So we're thinking that will be an incentive to make sure that the winning bidder actually finishes the work on time. It's an incentive to get them to prioritize our work. Yeah. Because we know a lot of bidders, they have a lot of work they're doing all at the same time. And we believe that if they start to make a little extra money, if they put our job first, they will do that, as opposed to one that doesn't give them any incentive.
And just to clarify, you said that the Helm did not have the request for liquidated damage, but we would do it for future ones.
We didn't do it for prior, but from this point on, for the RTU, we put that in the RFP, and we intend to put that in RFP going forward.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for being here. Oh, you have a question? Thank you again, Mr. Queen and Mr. Obafemi. Next, we have our new ISB resolutions. Each board member will take a vote on each of the 5 new resolutions, which will determine how our district votes at the Delegate Assembly in November.
Okay, so Jared, can you just refresh our memory? Just take a minute and refresh our memory about industrial construction.
Yeah, it was again, these are not like, I want to make it clear, we're not voting on, you know, hey, this means anything for this district or anything like that. It's merely us telling IASB, this is what we want you to have as a priority as far as things that you should try and get done, quite frankly, down in Springfield. And so the industrial construction piece is basically asking that they do not allow zoning for industrial construction within a certain area around a school.
It could, though, have repercussions for our district because.
I'm not. No. I'm not. I'm not arguing that. Like if ISB goes down there and they're successful, we need to realize like, hey, this is us sending IASB down there to either lobby for or against. Totally agree. I just don't want there to be confusion like this means it's automatically going to happen if we vote on it. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we're one vote.
But
And
the
then,
consequences,
well, like I know that around the Hunt Club area, there's been I can't remember what it was, like a granite, a quarry or something they wanted to put back there, and I know that there was a lot of discussion around there because of air quality, and so I just want to make sure that we understand what this means, because IASB is saying do not adopt this, and I want us to understand that it could possibly have, with all the construction going on in our community, down the road, it could have some sort of implications.
Yeah, and it's come. I think I gave the background last time, and listen. I am honest sometimes to a fault. I will totally admit my bias on this. It's no accident that comes from Pleasantdale, which is not too far from where Sterigenics occurred. Yep. Having a brother who and niece and nephew, right, who were growing up within basically ground zero of Sterigenics, and having a brother who passed away from a very rare cancer. I definitely understand where this is coming from. It's very difficult for me, I admit, to divorce myself from those feelings and those emotions. So it doesn't surprise me at all, and it doesn't surprise me where it's coming from.
okay, so if we're saying we agree with ISB, we're saying to them, lobby against industrial construction in,
Correct.
in districts so it's not close to schools. That's
Right.
what we're saying.
And to be fair, right, because I always try and be fair, the part of the reason they're saying not to adapt is because they're stating that this could do things to small towns who have very little space. They might be surrounded by farmland. I'm familiar with one small town that I grew up in that was definitely surrounded by farmland. Their fear is that the only place for them to build is next to schools in some cases. And a lot of those small towns are hurting. Totally get it. Yep. If I'm being totally fair, though, we did have industry in my small town, and it was not next to the school, so it can be done.
All right, we're just gonna do this for all five, and then we'll vote. So, school resource officer funding. So remember, we were having a discussion, and this was about the funding, not what school resource officers do. But can we get a clarification from you on what they do?
Yeah, so in relation to this funding request or submission, the resolution is really to provide additional funding if districts need it or requested to support SROs for the purpose of who are trained in tactical measures in a critical situation to save lives. And the focus of this particular, I should say, funding request is in relation to school resource officers and their role in emergency planning as it relates to drills, installing supporting school safety measures in relation to active shooters and school shootings that are happening nationally. That is the specific language that is used here in relation to the SROs and the recommendation to support funding to offset the cost that school districts may have to pick up in paying for SRO. So SRO may cost the district anywhere from $350,000 to $500,000 to $1 million, depending on the number you have. And so this would be to provide that funding.
So we're not talking about whether or not we believe that SROs are appropriate in schools, that kind of thing. That's not what this is.
I don't think you can divorce the two.
Huh?
I don't think you can divorce the two.
I mean, this is why we're having this discussion.
Yeah, and listen. I might be in the minority here, but I'm going to say it. We are very appreciative of everything that our law enforcement does, and heaven forbid we ever have to deal with a situation like this. I think that, this day and age, our law enforcement not being having a relationship with the schools is just, it's not realistic. And I get the SRO argument, and I don't disagree with those. I do think some of that though falls on school districts utilizing them incorrectly.
Yes.
And so in this case, you know, they were very careful how they crafted this, and I want to be careful that, you know, listen. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote, what to believe in, but I do want to make sure that we send a good message and a positive message, and
Part of the
leave it at that.
Part of the reason that they're used potentially incorrectly is because we don't control the SRO officer, the local police department does. And I think that's a point of contention for a lot of people, which is they still are the employee of the local police department. They are not our employee. So what we can ask to continually is to please, like for instance, go to the National School Resource Board or whatever organization and take their training, and we can, but that is all handled in an intergovernmental agreement. And what are we going to, you know, hold them responsible for? I mean, at the end of the day, they're not our employee. We have an intergovernmental agreement, I have, the research shows that this is an issue. I also understand that when it comes to a school intruder, God forbid a school shooter, our teachers, our educators aren't trained in tactical measures, right? But I think the discussion, I think it's very hard to ask us to divorce ourselves one thing from the other. Do we believe in school resource officers? Or are we gonna say, no, go ahead and, yeah, we want funding for it? I just don't know where we land on that.
Yeah, I think the one thing, it was a good point you just brought up, Jared. It almost like swayed me a little bit because it made me think of this. So if this resolution passes, regardless of how we feel about SROs, if it passes, and this is a question I'm asking, and then additional requirements are pushed down to the districts, but yet we don't think and we don't approve this dollar amount, then that means that we would have to cover the cost that the state is pushing down if we say no, well, not we, but if it doesn't get approved, we still then have to pay for whatever legislation that is then pushed down. So that's where I was like, I didn't think about it from that perspective.
Yeah. And again, like you know, this doesn't stop us from saying, hey, okay,
we have to change.
This is how we
use SROs in our
correct.
district. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, okay. All right, next, number 3, bus driver regulations. You wanna?
It basically reverts back to, I forgot what year, but it basically, it's basically asking them to undo some legislation which restricted bus drivers in the past. It's trying to get more bus drivers in the field. I'll be honest, me personally, I'm reluctant on it because there's a reason why they were put in place. On the flip side, I don't know about you, but I like my own school district. I see a board out front that says, "Okay, here's the buses that are going to be late. This is the bus you're really taking." You know, understand everybody's frustration when it comes to busing and transportation, but it really is. It has everything to do with a shortage.
Right. Is it rolling back safety?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. But is this a true correlation? So what research is showing that if we roll this back, then you know, more people in droves are going to say, "Oh."
They just want to train locally versus by a national provider. So for instance, if we have I don't know who we have on staff, but I'm going to give just a possibility. If we had someone on staff that could train new drivers, why would we not allow that? Let's say they have 25 years behind the wheel or something. I don't know what you need to do. There's very specific ways in which school bus drivers attain their licensure and how they're what's saying right now is that in February they put another set of rules that you have to, you know, train through a national provider and so forth, which takes away our opportunity if we have have those locally. And it makes it harder because everybody's going after the national trainers versus locally where we all go after our own. I don't think that, I don't think it's going to affect safety. What I think it is going to do in the long run is we already have to get our kids on buses so much earlier than they need to be because we have to have drivers that run multiple routes. I think that poses more of a safety issue than who trains them. Do I think we have then a responsibility to make sure whatever, I don't even know who does that, like puts, I don't know, Mr. Lefemi, if it's you, but whoever puts those protocols in place for how they're trained, I worry more about how much we continue to keep putting on our current drivers.
The other piece behind this, though, that we haven't discussed, just to make sure that we talk about this too, is they want the reimbursement to be raised to 100%. And I'll be honest with you, like that's why I agree with everything you've said, but I'm reluctant because there's only so much money, and if it's coming in the form of transportation, that's great, but then realize that, I don't want to call it a block grant, but it kind of indirectly is, because if it's not money that's going to the, EBF, as an example, but hey, you're still going to get it, but it's locked into transportation.
Yeah, I'm yeah, this is a tough one, because imagine a negotiation when you have no skin in the game.
So,
Okay. Next one, employment history review.
This is the one that's basically trying to get other state agencies involved in DCFS and so forth in Aaron's Law or Faith's Law. I'm sorry, Faith's Law, different one. Sorry, apologize. Faith's Law and I don't know. Their reasoning for this is it's just not. DCFS is already having problems as far as having employees. Adding this on the plate is probably problematic to say the least. So,
Brian, Heather, do you guys have anything to say on this one?
Yes. I think we mentioned this last time. We agree with your sentiment.
I absolutely think it is irresponsible to add this onto DCFS in this time. And they are already so burdened.
Yes.
And then we have to remember that we have the burden to put people in place in HR that will do the appropriate background checks. And this is going to be a little bit of a burden for the district when we have big chunks of hiring, because you have to do it all at one time. But I think we have to remember that it is the role of our district to hire, train, and provide ongoing professional development for our HR teams, along with a strong partnership with our board attorney to make sure that our hiring practices and our screening practices are legally solid. I think adding this to DCFS is just unacceptable.
Yep. Okay, last one.
I've done a little bit more research on this one and actually talked to some other districts, and I totally understand where this one is coming from. It's the alternative safe school funding. And listen, indirectly the teacher shortage is involved here, right? So if
I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop you. I'm just me. Can you just explain what you understand? I don't know why I could not comprehend this one to save my life. So
yeah. So basically, what it's saying is that these school districts are getting to a point where the amount of students they basically have in crisis or that need, above and beyond care, resources, supports is increasing, and that's just true. That's a fact, right? I mean, that is happening across the board. And so what they're asking here for is basically alternative safe school funding, because what's happening is you have school districts that, because their amount of outplacements and so forth is increasing, they are struggling to afford that. It's an added expense. And on top of that, look at some of our own programs here where it's difficult to attract, and so you are outsourcing in some cases, or just not finding the staff that's qualified to deal with these kind of things, right? And so,
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
and so I'm not making an argument for it. I'm just trying to give. I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm just explaining what's going on. And so, in some cases, you have teachers that are attacked by students at a higher rate, other students that are attacked by a higher rate, clearing school rooms at a higher rate. All these things cost money, right? And so, it even mentions in here as far as an analysis, it says, yeah, while they don't recognize it, they do say we might need to review SB 100. And I don't know if I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I will say that there are times where SB 100 may be thrown around incorrectly. And so I feel this district's frustration. I get it. One of the things they say is that there's already a position statement that already states that they're going to advocate for evidence-based formula to support funding for alternative schools. So that part of that, making it part of that formula. I mean, this, to me, I get it. I get the school district. They're frustrated. They're not alone. Like, if you talk to the right people in the right school districts, you'll hear this story throughout many school districts. But there's a reason why they're saying not to adopt, and that is, because they're making that fight through evidence-based formula.
My issue with this one is that, in my opinion, I think adding more funds to support this, particularly the way it's written, immature and aggressive behavior in students, can incentivize districts to place students in those schools. Elementary students. And I think there's a better way to address the serious concerns that schools have.
No, I don't disagree.
Wow. Yeah. I take a completely different perspective from this, and I am very, I guess, lucky, if you could say, because one of my best friends runs the largest regional safe school in the district in Rockford. It's through regional, through the ROE number 4. So I want to give you a little bit of perspective. So first of all, Eugene, the purpose of an RSSP is twofold: to increase safety and promote learning in schools, and to meet the particular educational needs of disruptive students more appropriately and individually. So when RSSP went into effect in 1997, it served 1,325 students. In 2012, it served 4,000 students. There are 80 RSSP program sites in Illinois, and Rockford alone served 917 students last year. And so the issue becomes that they are funded based on competitive grants and EVF, both of which fluctuate. And so what happens is small districts like that are serving maybe 50 students. So their cost per student is incredibly high. But in Rockford, where they're serving 917 students, the cost is relatively low. So it depends, and a school, I don't know the particulars of this, but they can choose what they do with their students or not. I think one of the things that bothered me about this particular proposal was 2 things. A, to review SB 100. I think that is a little bit irresponsible, because I think we still need to have exclusionary options for schools when it comes to behavior that is incredibly egregious, like throat punching a teacher or something like that. So I don't think going back to that is necessarily the right thing to do. I think what is we've heard in this district, and I'll just focus on our district, although I know a lot of educators are feeling this across the country, is that we are seeing these behaviors in younger students over and over and over. And so for me, and this is just me, I would rather see the school code changed to include K through 12, because right now it's 6 through 12. Before, and I know that our alternative program could very much serve some of those students if it had some proper, I just think that, we have experiences with some kids in school right now that are incredibly disruptive, but there are not a lot of options for them. We do know the gen ed classroom is not the place for them. So I just, with this, if we are going to if we're going to keep the current model, then I think that they should have funding that is definitely more consistent.
Yeah, but I don't know if this addresses that, so that's the question.
Yeah, I would. First of all, I think that the resolutions committee does not adopt this. So if there's a question as to where I would stand on this, I have a bias. I'm married to a child psychologist, and so I would say that I think, to your point, I think that there are the value of SB 100 is that it provides a significant attention to what are the interventions that are in place. And so when those continue to fail, we do have then we do know that there are profound behavioral strategies to address how children's needs are addressed. And typically that then goes through tier 1, tier 2, as in terms of restorative or remedial practices or interventions, tier 3 being special education. And we know that there tends to be a preponderance of students of color who end up in special ed through that route. My concern is that at least in that route, there's clear case management and attention to what's happening there. My worry as I read this as it stands, I think you raised some important questions, some important issues were raised tonight about safety of our educators. That has to be a paramount issue. And resourcing our schools so that when there are challenges, we are able to make sure that teachers are safe as well as children are safe. However, in the way this is written today, it concerns me that it doesn't position the level of other interventions that need to be considered equally. And so I can imagine this coming back with a review of SB 100. It mentions that, but to do it in absentia of that, I worry that it becomes like a slippery slope for exclusionary practices. And this is with the equal concern I have about teacher safety.
Yeah, I think, I think rather than a review, I think sometimes it's a re-education of SB 100 that needs to occur.
True.
And again, this screams to me desperation due to probably the teacher shortage, because where is it affected most? It's affected in some of our hardest to fill positions. I'm talking about the state now. Hardest to fill positions and our most vulnerable students. And I agree. I don't. We need to focus on the proactive end.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we're ready to vote.
This is just a clarifying.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, industrial construction says do not adopt. If I agree, I am agreeing to not adopt.
We're agreeing or disagreeing with the recommendation. It's that in parentheses is just telling you what their board recommended. Right. Their board said do not adopt this. Their board said do adopt this. So forth.
So if I want to adopt it, I would say.
If you want to adopt it, you're going to say I agree. If you do not want to adopt it, you're going to say disagree. They give a recommendation. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Because they give a recommendation. We don't have to agree with that recommendation.
Well, but our vote is one, so the majority is the vote.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever you tell me to do, to go in there and do, I will. Well, whatever.
I'm just saying it for the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in number 1, do not adopt the industrial construction.
No, that's what they're telling us not to adopt. We are either agreeing with the resolution or we're disagreeing with the resolution.
But their resolution to say, like, if we say.
They wouldn't bring this to us to say, hey, we want you to vote to agree. Like, it's.
Okay, see, I changed that after I
so we
talked to Amy.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's say number 1.
Mm-hmm.
The committee is whatever.
Yep, ISB says
recommends that we do not adopt the industrial construction.
Yes.
If I agree that we shouldn't adopt, then I mark agree.
Yes.
Wait.
Yep.
Got it.
No, that's no.
Yes.
Yes.
No, you are
That's
telling.
why I asked the question.
You are telling me whether to go in there and agree with the resolution or not.
Okay,
so ignore the parentheses. Just
Are we
ignore
ignoring the
what's in
parentheses?
parentheses.
Wait.
The
Is that what you're saying?
the
Are we voting on the recommendation
Does
or the
anybody know?
resolution?
I'm trying to. Yes, I do. I do know. I've been trying to tell you.
Okay, thank you. Then we're going.
Say it again.
Again, so I'm gonna say it again, right? These are the recommendations. We can either agree or disagree with
But
the.
are we agreeing to the
I
resolution
can't
or the
finish, so I can't. Like, I got to be able to finish if you want me to explain
Go
it.
ahead, go ahead.
These are the resolutions. We are either agreeing with the resolution or disagreeing. What's in parentheses is what that board, the resolutions committee, that's their suggestion. So their suggestion is do not adopt. If you say, oh, I agree with them, then you're going to actually mark disagree. You don't want to adopt that.
Right.
If you're saying, no, wait a minute, I want us to adopt it, I don't care what the resolution committee said, you're going to say agree.
Oh, God.
Right, so you totally
Don't look at what they're recommending.
disregard what's in parentheses.
I scratched it out.
Okay,
Fine.
So scratch.
So if I'm concerned about industrial construction within our school district, I don't want that. I'm gonna say,
You agree.
If you're concerned, then you're.
We got the resolution says the resolution literally says we do not want to build next to a school. So if you're concerned with that, you would agree with that.
okay, I put agree, okay.
Okay.
But I was,
Jared, tell me if I'm wrong or right. I am agreeing or disagreeing to the resolution.
Correct.
Yeah,
Wait,
yes,
question one,
you're
okay.
agreeing or disagreeing with the resolution.
I am not agreeing or disagreeing with the recommendation.
That has nothing to do with anything other than they want you to realize what the rules committee has stated.
Okay,
All
give me
right.
a second. Give me a second.
ooh, who's on first?
Yeah, this has happened before.
We are smart.
Student ambassadors, any suggestions? At this juncture, you may want to step in, my friends. We welcome you as our board members.
Yeah, make this simple. Yeah.
Sorry.
All you need to tell me is if you agree or disagree with the resolution. That's it. That's all. You agree with the resolution, you disagree with the resolution.
So are we verbalizing this, or are we handing in
We
these
should go
ballots?
one at a time. I think we
Ursula's
could do
going
a
to-
straw, right? We could do a straw.
Okay.
All I need is 4 people at least to tell me one way or the other.
Is that what we're doing? A straw?
Disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you don't
there's
need
no
fine.
official.
That's
We're gonna
fine.
argue
So the
about
first,
that now?
you
Okay.
want to do this?
No, oh, no, you're the secretary, you do it.
Fine. Okay, I need to know on industrial construction, do we agree with the resolution or do we disagree? For all those that agree, raise your hand. All right, well, that's more than 4.
So we agreed, the majority agreed that we don't want
Yes.
construction around schools.
That is correct. So when I walk in there and they say agree, then I'm gonna. Now, what does happen, as long as we want maybe a teachable moment, what does happen is sometimes there will be enough people in there to block it from even being taken up. So realize when I report back, I might not report on all of these because there may be enough people that said it's gone. It's not even going to be taken up anymore.
Right.
Okay. All right. School resource officer funding. I need to know whether you agree with this resolution or you disagree with the resolution.
Do we want funding to be provided by the state? That's the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you are saying you agree, you're going to raise your hand. I have 4. Okay. I only need 4 to tell me one way or the other. Then there's the bus driver regulations. And you're telling me if you agree with that resolution or you disagree with that resolution.
That they want to be trained locally.
And the 100% funding, I don't want to leave that out of there. So if you agree, I'm reluctantly
Yeah, it's like
agreeing.
half of it.
You don't get half.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also reluctant, but all I need is 4, so I'm going to march in there and say I agree. I don't know about marching, but that's okay. It's getting late and I'm getting tired. So, employment history review. If you agree with this resolution, you're going to raise your hand for agree. If you disagree, then you don't need to. So how many agree with this resolution? That was easy. I will go in there and disagree.
My agree and my disagree are both the same.
All right, and then the last one is alternative safe school funding. If you agree with this resolution, you'll raise your hand, and if you do not agree, then you don't need to raise your hand.
Doesn't matter.
Whatever Dr. Kelgatti just said, I like what he said.
All right, so I've only got one hand up, so I'm marching in to disagree.
You did it.
That was painful.
It is very strangely worded.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not.
I think what's throwing people
I
off
think
is
I
what-
disagree.
Yeah, I disagree. Actually, it makes sense to me. Didn't you
I
go in
understand
and
that
vote once before?
disagreements.
No, but I.
No?
He was our,
No, I knew I knew how to
rep.
vote. I knew because.
Well, this
you
is
know.
what the same sheet they give you every year.
No,
No, that is the same sheet they give you every
Jared,
year.
that's a year ago.
Next agenda item is.
Yes, let's move on.
Next agenda item.
All right.
Action items.
Oh.
all right,
9.1.
would you guys like to be excused? I know you have.
You mean you're not enjoying this?
I know you have school tomorrow. I'm glad you were able
Permission
to
not
see
to answer
that.
that question.
Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, raise your hand if you agree.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good
Take
night.
care, thank you.
All right, action item 9.1, approval of EDC resolution. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the resolution with Gallagher's Employees Benefits Cooperative.
Second.
I do have something I'd like to say about this. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's quick turnaround, and there's some things that I'm still worried about when it comes to the governance of this. So, I'm very reluctant on this, but at the same time, I understand the timeline. So,
Remind us of the timeline, please.
I think you have November 6th start as start. I mean, we can't vote on this November 6th and them say, hey, start signing up. So, and it makes sense. Like, I mean, you know, insurance.
What are the reluctance? Let's raise those
I
questions.
my only reluctance can be easily satisfied with once I understand the governance of this. And I want to make it clear that you know, I will probably support this. I will support this, but there's a reason why, because it seems like it's an 18-month commitment, and I do want to understand what we're talking about as far as our influence. I mean, that's great that you say we're going to go in there and try and influence this, but this is also a public meeting, so now all those 125 school districts, if they want to do their homework, are aware of what we just said, and that's kind of why I'm interested in the governance of this, and I want our employees to have a say, and I want us to speak on their behalf, and I want us to be there representing them to the best that we can. So I'm happy that that's our attitude. I'm not saying like I'm, you know, not content with that, but I would like to know the particulars just so I can speak to it also. So I look forward to hearing back on that.
And the reason that we've had this quick turnaround is because Mr. Ofemi came in and we were needing to have done this work prior to.
Well, can we speak to why we're moving now versus a year from now?
They're in
think it's
market
really-
right now, so when you're in market, you have all your brokers come to the table and you start building your benefits packages. We are past that window, and so we're jumping right into it already. We talked about this in the committee meeting. I was very uncomfortable with it because this is not how we like to work. But it would take a whole nother year before we could make any impacts or save any money.
So it's a timing issue. Benefits normally run calendar year, as I think Ken mentioned, from January to December. So this is the time we normally do our open enrollment. So if we don't do it now, then we have to wait till next year to be able to do this, right? Right. So this is only an 18-month commitment. If after 18 months they come back and we're not satisfied with the service or the rate, we can always go back to what we're doing before.
That's a good point.
So it's not a long-term commitment. So
And that's what I realized, and that's like I'm still reluctant. I'm still reluctant, yes, but I think I could be. I just need that education piece on how the governance of all of that works, and once I have that, I will feel a little more comfortable, so I can, when questioned, I can speak to it.
What I can say is, prior district where I worked, when we switched over to EBC, we were able to get one of Amanda, someone who served in the same capacity as Amanda with me, to be the vice chair of the Board of Governors. And she's still the vice chair today of the Board of Governors. Of the co-op.
It's always difficult for me. I admit some of my roots are deep, right? And so I'm still the small town kid sometimes from down the road. So when I hear us getting involved with other places and who's going to have the influence and who isn't, I'm cautious. And I don't mind change. I don't mind explaining change. I understand that there's an evolution, but I just need to understand it to be able to speak to it. That's all.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, everybody? Yep. You got anything you want to say? No? Okay, go ahead.
I did second it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 9.2, approval of new high school courses for fiscal year 24. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the new high school courses for school year 24 as discussed and presented.
Second.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Oh, did you say? Oh.
Yep.
What'd you say?
She
I
was
voted.
signing. She was
Oh.
signing.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Motion passes 7-0.
And I just want to say, thank you to the board, because that's I think we've done an awesome thing here for our students. So
For sure.
This is actually a momentous moment for our district.
I agree.
The evolution of this, it took a lot to get to this point. I know Ms. Johnson had some history for this. Would you mind sharing some of that? I think it's
I'm
worth
just very grateful as
Yeah.
part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. I'm incredibly grateful that we are finally bringing this forward.
Very good. 9.3, action item, approval of destruction of the audio recordings of the closed session meetings.
I make a motion to approve the destruction of the audio recordings of the closed session meetings from October 25th, 2021 through April 11th, 2022.
Second.
Ms. Venmus?
No.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
They were from 2011?
No, 2021 to 2022.
This is the audio recordings.
Oh, okay, aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye. Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Ploger?
No.
Motion passes 4-3. What, 4? 3, yeah.
It's 4-3.
Action item 9.4, approval of the release of those closed session minutes which no longer require confidential treatment. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to make available no closed session minutes at this time due to a determination that it continues to be necessary to protect the public interest or the privacy of an individual by keeping them confidential.
Second.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
No.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. Action item 9.5, approval of personnel report. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo? Mario.
Aye.
Mr. Sharon.
Aye.
Ms. Simulton.
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood.
Aye.
Ms. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Ploger.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Can I have a motion to return to closed session?
Yep. Make a motion to enter closed session under statutes 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of certain employees, and 5 ILCS 120/2C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, individuals.
Second.
Dr. Maria.
Aye.
Ms. Simulton.
Aye.
Mr. Ploger.
Aye.
Mr. Sharon.
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood.
Aye.
Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Ms. Johnson.
If you say no, you have to go, right?
So